If you are a Christian woman creative looking for more visibility, you're hoping, praying that you can be more visible, this is your video. This is your day, sis. So, in today's video, I'm going to actually be breaking down what I learned, some big lessons from a recent visibility sprint. I recently had 4 days of in person visibility, and some things went really well, some things not so much. And so we're going to be breaking that down because I know it's going to be important for your journey as you're increasing your revenue, your visibility, and scaling your entrepreneurship business, no matter what stage it's in. So for context, these were four very different types of visibility. So one was an in-person podcast recording. Another was a live worship session, so leading worship. Another one was a statewide conference presentation. And then the last one was actually me hosting a live event for a local organization. So it was a lot of talking. You can probably hear a little bit of my voice, a little raspy still. Last one was yesterday. Yesterday was day 4. So this is fresh off the press, talking about what I've learned. So before we go any further, if you are liking this video, if you're like, yes, Belinda, this is the content I need, make sure that you are liking and subscribing and sharing with others, other Christian women creatives who want to level up in their visibility, both online and offline. Okay, so uh, I'm going to talk a little about systems, right? Because a lot of what's going on or what's happened, what I learned, really centered around systems. So, what is a system? A system is something that's just repeated. It's things that we do, routines. Some people call it routines. Things that we do all the time that help our life run, help our family run. If we have families, just make things more efficient. They are also things that, when we don't have present, usually that's what's causing some of the issues. So, you might hear people online talk about like morning routines and nighttime routines, which I'm all about. But those are just systems, ways of doing things, whether it's something that's daily, something that's weekly, something that's monthly. But there's some sort of system, things that run. So I'm going to talk to you about some systems that were still on track, that still went well, and some that did not. And before I go any further, in addition to liking, subscribing, make sure you have a notepad because during our Wednesday lives, we are going deep. We're talking about things that are needed for you to grow your entrepreneurship business right now. Because as a creative, you're also a CEO. So I want to make sure that you are not only taking notes, but there's going to be some questions and things that you can reflect on for the week. So you're actually getting something of value out of this life. All right. So there were a few things that went well. The first thing during this 4-day madness, this sprint, was communications. Communications went well. What do I mean by that? Meaning that my emails went out and my social media posts went out. So, as a entrepreneur, regardless of the type of creative you are, whether you're an author, you're an artist, you're a singer, you're a baker, you're a craftsman, whatever it is, you need to be communicating with potential clients. Those that are going to be buying or consuming the product, the services that you have, right? So I use a platform called Flowdesk. You'll actually be able to find links to get discounts in the description below. So I use a platform called Flowdesk, and I typically schedule my emails 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks in advance. I know what I want to talk about, what I want to share, the lessons I'm learning, and I am scheduling that information ahead of time. Now, this became very important for me because although I had 4 days of 4 amazing events, only 2 of them were planned in advance. So I was asked last minute to take on 2 other ones, and I said yes because they were great opportunities. And part of what allowed me to be more visible, right, what went well, is the fact that I had my communications pre-scheduled. So that allowed me to take time to work on the other things I need to do to get stuff together for these amazing opportunities because I had my communications scheduled. And I want to just want to back up a second and say that we send out emails as entrepreneurs, as CEOs of businesses. We send out emails so that we are top of mind for people, okay? Because most people are never going to read your email. I hate to break it to you. They're just not gonna read your email. I know you're amazing. I know you're wonderful. Statistics say across all industries, 60% or more of the audience that you have are not gonna read your emails. Maybe your mom, if they're on your email list, but most people will not. So what's the purpose then? If you're telling me, Belinda, 60 or 70% of people are never gonna open up my emails they spend time on, the purpose is for people to see your name because the world is busy. It's busy. So when people see your name, they associate you with being someone of value, they remember you, and they associate you with being consistent. So the people on my email list know that every Monday and Wednesday, I'm sending you an email. Whether they open it or not, they can expect to see Belinda-Rose Young on their email list or on their email provider, right? And again, it just emphasized that you are dependable. You're someone that will be there when they're ready to work with you and whatever your capacity is as creative. So my emails were scheduled, my social media posts were scheduled. Now, I do think that the week of the first event, that I had one less than I typically do, but for the most part, they were scheduled. So again, it gave me the bandwidth to be able to take on these amazing other opportunities. I was also able to fulfill on the things I'd already promised different clients or people across the different businesses that I have, and so that went well. But let's jump to what did not go well. The things that did not go well were my growth systems. Okay, so uh, before I talked about communication systems, right? The emails, the social media, and one thing I would just also add, because I know I'm talking to creatives, and I actually just had this conversation with someone this weekend. When I first started doing emails and social media, I wanted to be creative, right? Like as a creative, I wanted to whatever whenever I was inspired, I wanted to just have something to share with the world, something that was fresh, something that was wonderful. When I'm learning, the more and more I'm in bigger rooms, I'm doing this longer. Most creatives don't wait to be inspired. Your communication systems should be treated as a part of your job. So, yes, there's opportunities where you can post something maybe in your stories or, like just come up with a post. But for the most part, people storyboard. They plan out their videos. They know what they want to say, right? Maybe they have a transcript that they're reading off of on their phone. If you don't have the Instagram Edits app, it's a great one for even just recording. I personally use transcripts, but for people that want them, you can just enter it and use it, and it'll help you be more consistent in your communication system. So I just want to unmask something because I'm realizing that more and more, especially in the creative space, that a lot of people think that like creatives are just spontaneous, like the big creators are spontaneous, and that's not the case. Everything is mapped out, everything. And so reserve that creativity, that spontaneity, if you will, for the things that you're actually maybe producing. But in terms of your communications, make sure that that's actually drafted. So going back to the things that did not go well, my growth systems. So while communications was on point, there was no growth. It was just a steady week. What do I mean by that? Meaning there were no sales, there was no sales conversations. There was nothing that took my time to be able to do. So I didn't see any increase in that. Um, there was no funnels. There were some things that I was trying to work on, and if you don't know what a funnel is, we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But essentially, it's just a path or a way that you take people through the different opportunities you have. It's just a way of bringing people into your offers. But there was no opportunity to do any further funnel building or to present my offers in front of people. So I was able to be present, right? People saw me showing up, but there is no sales for business, and business runs on sales. Um, I was one of the things that I have learned have learned, because again, these are all fresh off, so I have a page full of notes. One of the things I've learned from these last 4 days is that I need to introduce more automations into my system so that there are sales happening that do not require me. So one of the other things that was going on around this time is that I have recently started being a little bit more present on Threads. Not really, but trying to make more of a presence. And there are people that I connected with on Threads that carried over to Instagram. So if you like Instagram, you're not on Threads yet, it's a great platform to start to grow or to help you grow. But because I was super busy preparing for these 4 days events, I wasn't able to nurture those people that came over. So some of the people that came over are potential leads. What do I mean by leads? Like people who might actually want to buy from me because again, we are CEOs of businesses, right? We're not just wonderful artists. We are actually business owners. We want to make money from the art that we have, whether you're a speaker, podcaster, baker, artist, author, you want to make money, right? And you need to nurture, you need to engage with people. I know that Instagram and some other platforms have ways that you can automate your some of your messaging. I like to be a little more natural and send like voice notes, which I think is always ideal. But the problem is because these opportunities came up and I wasn't able to fit in the more natural or spontaneous sort of interactions that where they could hear my voice, they got nothing. And in the case where, people come and go and things are fast, it's better to have something rather than nothing. So now I need to go back and re-engage people and just see, why they join the page, what they're looking for, and just be able to speak with them more in the DMs. So it's one area that I really will be adding on going soon. So if you don't have automations on Instagram or Facebook or anything, I would definitely encourage you to look into that. The other big thing is that I was not able to maximize the in-person opportunities. So while the delivery went well, the presentation went well, the podcasting went well, the hosting of the events, everything went well in terms of my preparation for it. Because it happened so rapidly and because I didn't have some of these other systems in place, I didn't have the time to maximize. So, for example, whenever you're doing a presentation, because regardless of the type of creative you are, you need to be speaking. Everyone. I don't care if you start with a little women's group in the church, you need to practice speaking. If you're an artist, you should be able to, like a painter, a sculptor, you should be able to deliver a presentation on maybe how like the process you take with creating your art or what you've learned, life lessons from being a sculptor or what you've learned as an entrepreneur trying to sell your creativity. There's something that you want to be able to be known for as a presenter so that you're able to monetize in other ways, right? You're not just dependent and hoping and praying that people buy the art. You're able to sell yourself as a speaker as well and get paid from speaking, but also bring people to your art. Before I went to that statewide conference, there were two or 300 people that didn't know who I was, but I got up and presented, and in an hour's time, 300 people got to know me. What does that do for my business? A lot. That has referrals. "Oh, come speak to my group," or "I wanna learn a little bit more about what she creates, or how she teaches, or how she can consult with me," right? There's a book that I, um I think I talked about last week, but I absolutely love. And in one of my future offers, we're actually going to go through this book is like a book club. But I love this book. It's called The Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley. One of the things he talks about a lot is maximizing stages. Every entrepreneur, I don't care, the fact that we're creatives, we need to be able to stand in front of people, present, and have them learn more about what we're doing. So that's one of the things we're going to do in one of my offers in the future, very near future. So stay tuned for more information on that. But you need to be thinking ahead of time right now. What is it that I could talk about for 15, 20 minutes? If someone called you up and said, "Hey, do you have any time in 2 days to come talk to my group of students, my high school students? I just want them to be inspired." What could you talk about for 20 minutes? Like, yeah, you wanna flesh out, like, an outline, notes, and stuff like that, and, like, maybe think about talking points, but, like, what could you really talk about? And I would come up with 2 or 3 topics, because maybe the first topic they're not interested in, but you have an alternative. You're not like, "Oh, shucks, okay, it's not gonna work out." No, there's something else. There's something else that you can present on. Get paid for the opportunity again, but also draw attention to your business. And maybe if it's high school students, get some free volunteer work, maybe. I don't know. Um, but anyhow, we need to be thinking about that. So maximizing a person. Because I was with a group of adults, not high school students, one of the things I should have done as a speaker is have a QR code on my slides that allowed people to move from in person to offline. If depending upon the meeting planner, the organizer, whoever is developing or curating the speaking opportunity, some of them, most of them will not, but some of them will allow you to have access to the emails, but most won't. They don't want to share that information. So the only way for you to be able to follow up with your 300 new leads, the 300 people that just found out about you, is to email them. Well, how do you get their email? You give them something of value during the presentation. So maybe it's halfway through the presentation, towards the end, you provide a free download for them to continue working through or processing or thinking about whatever you just discussed. Right? They're there, they've been listening to you, they're interested in the topic. Well, hey, if you want to learn more about it, I have this one pager, this one page document. Just scan the QR code and it'll take you to a form. Just give me your email so I know where to send it. Now you have email addresses. Now you can continue the conversation. I was telling an author this the other day. Put a QR code in your book, because when you sell on Amazon, you sell through Barnes and Nobles or wherever you're living, you don't have that information. The person who they purchased your book from has that information, but you're not privy to that information, but you want that information, because the people who purchase, the people who attend the talk are more than likely going to be willing to buy something from you again in the future, or to work with you again another way in the future. So you want to make sure that you always have a QR code and something available, something of value for them. So I did not have time to do that. So the next best thing that I'm doing, and I would say to do this either way, when you guys are talking, and if you've done any presentations, go ahead and let me know, put in the chat. I'd love to just see different things that you guys have done. But is to make sure that you follow up with the organizer, planner, convener, curator. They have different titles, all the same thing. That you get one, a review from them within 24 to 48 hours. You ask them, "Hey, can you just write a quick review? Like, I'm building this portfolio." But you also ask for feedback. Most times, event planners want to know how they can improve. They want to know what you thought about the speakers so they know whether or not to ask them back, right? So, what I did is I asked them for a review and also for the feedback from their evaluation form. And so I should be getting that today or tomorrow. So although I don't have the emails, I can at least when I'm pitching myself to someone else, when an opportunity arises, I can say, "Oh yeah, I have these topics, and would you like to see feedback from the last 2, 3 presentations I did, the most recent ones?" "Oh, look, Sally said this about my presentation," right? And now you can just pull things out. Now they're really excited, especially when you're thinking about payment rate, right? Because now you're not a questionable speaker. This just turned into a speaking live, but we all need to be speaking. Now you're not just a questionable speaker, you're a validated speaker. And that comes with a different price point. All right. So maybe we'll go into more about speaking in the future one. Love that, love that. I'm seeing the one from the primary school. Yeah, I love that. So those are all things, your outlines, those are things that can be repeated. Those are things that can be, presented to other schools, whether primary or otherwise. Even at the college level, there's something that you can repurpose there. Love it. So my growth systems, just to go over what did not go well. My growth systems stalled. I was not able to maximize in-person opportunity. And those are things from a business perspective. From life, very little sleep. Very little sleep. Laundry, there's still laundry baskets of stuff just spread out in another room. I can't even show you guys. It's horrible. Like I said, day 4 was yesterday. Sleep, laundry, meal prep, um, grateful for a gracious family, but things fell off. They really fell off. And all that's important, right? It's important, yes, yes, for family and different things like that. But in addition, I'm not gonna say more importantly, in addition to that, if you're really tired, that can affect your performance, right? These things, some of these things, like I said, were last minute. They're great opportunities. If it happened again, I would do it all over again. I would take all 4, but I was definitely tired. There's definitely an increase in stress, and a decrease in my immune system. I have been sneezing. This morning I woke up and I felt my throat being, a little not just raspy, but like a little tickle in my throat. I'm like, okay, all right, got to deal with that. So life, right? My life systems weren't in place. I think a lot of times as business owners, we just think about the business, but we can't run ourselves to the ground and then not have any business, right? And so one of the things that I'm personally going to be looking into a little bit more is how I can tighten up my evening and weekend routines so I can make myself more available for opportunities. Again, we pray for these opportunities. Like, God, if more people knew who I was, if my name could get out there, you gave me this dream, you gave me this vision. I want to do it. People don't know who I am. When it comes, is our life prepared? Is the business prepared to handle the capacity? Because I was not expecting this. I was praying. If you follow me on Instagram, if you don't, if the moderator can put the handle in the chats, positioning women. But on June 1st, I was like, I'm praying for speed. I said on Instagram, I'm like, I'm praying for speed. I'm praying for things to speed up in the business. And these things came. 6 days later, these things came, and I was like, "Okay, great." But I was not prepared, and so I'm bringing this up because I don't want you guys to be where I was. I don't want you to have to live off of caffeine. All right, so let's talk about, some other things that we could be doing to go forward. I kind of already mentioned this a little bit, but have reusable assets. Have things that are already created, already done, so that when opportunity comes, because it will come, and when it comes, it'll show whether or not we're prepared. So things like I said before, having your presentation outlines come, at least have an idea of what the topics are, right? And then, you can have, maybe you're doing a slide presentation, maybe you're doing a talk in front of a podium, but have those sort of outlines, right? Think about even your content format, right? If you're sending emails already and you have a system, great. If you don't, maybe you have a format. And every Tuesday, it's going to be Tuesday with Tina, and we're talking about trust, right? Whatever it is, have a system, have some sort of assets that you can use. If there's a way that you go about creating your art, whether that's podcasting, books, sculptor, whatever you're doing as a creative, think about the frameworks. We talked a little bit about this last week, but think about the frameworks that you use, meaning the process. There's a process that we all use to do things. We might not fully understand it or fully recognize what it is, but we have a way of doing, right? We're really predictable creatures. Humans are predictable creatures. And so make sure that you're writing down your process so that when you have an opportunity to be more visible, whether that's doing a live, which I hope you guys all try to do lives. It pushes you in a lot of great ways. You learn more about yourself, your audience in a lot of great ways. So whether it's a live, whether it's something in person to speak at a local ministry or church or organization, whatever it is, you have something out of your back pocket. So, because has anyone tell me in the chat? Um, has anyone yes, doing a live. Has anyone ever been asked to just come and talk about something spontaneously, right? I don't know, my mind always goes to, like, church and it's like, "Come give us a testimony," like, "Co or come tell us about how things have been going in this one area." Has anyone have ever been just asked off the cuff, "Just come talk to us for a couple minutes." You're like, "Couple minutes? Maybe a couple seconds?" I wasn't prepared for this. Tell me in the chat. Well, in those times when you have, when you're asked to do something spontaneous, you need to have a framework or something you can pull from because you are business owners. I think it's the biggest thing that I see with creatives is not understanding that you are the CEO, the chief executive officer of your business. And there's an expectation, whether you've internalized it or not yet, but there's an expectation that as a business owner, you are able to off the cuff tell people about why they should invest in your business or why they should purchase from you or why your business is better than what other standard or why your process or method is better than another type of process or method. So a lot of times we get bogged down in the doing, but we need to take some time back, step back a little bit, reflect, and think about how we go about things and what we can speak to and what we can be known for. Um, yes, I'm seeing a couple of being asked in small groups. Yeah, yeah, but that's something that we should always be prepared, always have an answer, right? Okay, so creating reusable assets, giving yourself more runway than you need. So I only had two of the four plans. So I thought I had more time to do things, but giving yourself more runway than you think you need, giving yourself more time to do things. So if you haven't watched the live from last week, make sure you do that. We talk about the calm method they utilize, I recommend for other people. So how you can have calmer weeks, I guess I should say, and really thinking about how you're structuring and organizing your week. So make sure you watch last week's live to dig into a little bit more. Build systems before you need them. So there's some things I'm sure as I was talking, there's some things that come to mind, but what is the thing that you've been putting off from your business, or what is the thing that keeps coming up? Like, oh, I need to deal with that, or oh, that keeps hindering me from doing things. Like it's a bottleneck. Make sure that you're working on and building systems both in your life and at home, things that are more routine. When you have those routines, those systems down, it gives you more time to rest, to relax, to have fun, but also to be more creative and productive in your business because we all have a part of our business that's okay, but could be better. And sometimes um, the additional effort to improve a part of our business could be the difference between clients deciding to work with us in a different capacity, right? So we want to make sure that we're having those routines, those systems, so that we just have more bandwidth to do whatever it is. Okay. The other thing I would say is join a community. Now, I do have linked down below in the description a link to our personal community, the Positioning Women community. It's on a platform called School. It's absolutely wonderful. You'll get a lot of different information on things that are coming up within Positioning Women. You'll be able to interact with each other, to learn from each other, and I'll post things in there as well. But making sure that you are surrounded by people that are on the journey with you. There's something about just having another pair of eyes, another pair of ears, someone else to bounce ideas off of who get it. And most people are not entrepreneurs. That's just the reality. And so when you find yourself amongst people who are entrepreneurs, who are Christian, and who are creatives, because creatives were a different bunch, that is a strength. And so I would say check out the community down below. Of course, there's other opportunities for you to find community in different ways as well, and making sure that you are learning from people who are also building and growing their business. So I have 6 questions. 6 questions. I want to make sure that you write these down or you go and you rewatch, but 6 questions for you to consider as you are growing your creative business, right? And to consider whether or not to take on opportunities. So the first 3 questions are going to be about the system, the systems that you need to take on visibility in order to grow your business, right? Because visibility is the way in which people come to us to purchase, to buy. And then 3 questions specifically about an opportunity and whether or not that opportunity is actually worth it. Ready? Okay. So question number 1 about systems. What keeps breaking when life gets busy? What keeps breaking when life gets busy? And you go ahead and put some things in chat, or you can just reflect or write down. But whatever keeps breaking when life gets busy, that is what you need to prioritize working on, because life is unpredictable and it will get busy and things shift. I feel like every year, every calendar year has a different pattern or different things going on, right? So let's see what we can get ahead. Mm, yeah, that's something to make sure that you're formalizing the feedbacks. That's good. So what keeps breaking when life gets busy? Number 2, what do I keep rebuilding from scratch? What do I keep rebuilding from scratch? This is an area that I'm getting better at. So I have outlines from um, 4 different presentations that I can do. But I've still been the person I did with this opportunity too, where it's like, I want to talk more with the meeting planner. I want to talk and hear more about what they've done in the past. I really want to tailor this to them. And it ends up being too much to the point where the presentation really deviated deviated from the outline that I had. It's a little bit more of an implementation thing, but that's me reining myself in to say, okay, I'm not going to keep rebuilding this presentation in order to have more margin. So I was like, never again, God, that's it. I'm going to tailor it a little bit, but I'm not going to go to that level of customization. But, but considering your business, what do you have to keep rebuilding? Number 3, when you're thinking about systems, what system would make the biggest difference in your business before the next opportunity happens? So if you got four visibility opportunities in person, because these are the reason why I brought it in person is not just because it just happened, because it wasn't just the comfort of my computer and I could leave. Right? I had to get dressed. I had to drive places. I had to meet with people. I had to stay after. Like there's a lot more logistics, right? So in person's a little tougher. So what system would make the biggest difference in your business if you had 4 in-person opportunities over the next 4 days, right? What would need to change if day one for the visibility was tomorrow? What would you need to get done today? Right. So the last 3 questions I have are things to consider about the opportunity, because not every opportunity is worth it. These were worth it. For me, these are worth it. And it's because they check the boxes of what I'm about to share. but not every opportunity is worth the time and effort, especially, like I said, the lot of logistics that would happen for an in-person opportunity. So the first one, is it aligned with where I want to go? Is it aligned? Is the opportunity aligned with where you want to go in your business? Now, I do understand seasons where you're like, well, I just got to eat. I just got to pay bills. Like, and so I'm taking opportunities. I get that. Even with those opportunities, there should be something that is helpful for your business right now, right? There should be something you can extract or something that can help you in the future, even if it's, like I said, a review or some sort of feedback. But is the opportunity aligned with where you want to go in this business? Now, this assumes you know kind of where you're going. I know we're all on a journey with God, and God tells us part of the story, not the whole story, right? Not actually the process. He's like, here's the wonderful thing that you're going to do, but not always the exact process to get there, right? But from what you know right now, what you believe about your business right now, what you've dreamed about your business right now, is the opportunity aligned? Meaning, is it going to help you get from where you are to where you need to go, or at least to like the next step? Is aligned. Number two, what does excellence require for this opportunity? Because when we do an opportunity, we want it to be excellent. That's why I had no sleep. Because it reflects on our name and our business. The worst thing you could do is to take an opportunity and not really prepare and then have 300 people associate you negatively. That's not helpful, even for a paycheck. That's not helpful, right? So, what does excellence require of us? And along the same lines, what do we have to give up for excellence? Because for every yes, there's a corresponding no, right? When you take on an opportunity, you're saying no to all other opportunities during that time, right? Unless you and Jesus have learned a way to be in two places at once. So you're saying no to everything else. So what do you have to give up in order to be excellent? Okay. Here is my last question. Here's my last question to you. And if you have any thoughts or questions, you can go ahead and put in chat. I'll stay back after to respond to some of them. Um, the last question, and this takes level of discernment. Is it my season to say yes to this thing? It could be that God is calling you to do this thing, but is now the time? Is now the time? Or is it better for me to prioritize something else and take that but later? Sometimes, as entrepreneurs, people in general, but as entrepreneurs, we can have a scarcity mindset where we assume this is the only time that this will happen. And that's just not true. There's no fact that supports that. There are always going to be opportunities, always, especially the longer you're in business and people really associate your name with this thing, with you doing this thing. So, is it the right season? For example, let's say you are let's say you're a baker, right? Give me two examples. Let's say you're a baker and you have a colleague who's selling their store. You might wonder, is it the right time for me to open up a second store or to move locations? It's not to mean that there's never going to be another space that you can have, but is it the right time? Or let's say you're an author and you have one book and you're considering your second book. Is it the right time to write that second book? Is it the right time to release that second book? Or do you need to focus more on building your brand, spend the time and energy that you would be writing, building your brand, building your name, and making sure you're monetizing and maximizing that first book before writing a second book? Now, there's wisdom in the multitude of counsel. And so that's where I would always recommend a coach and definitely a community. Um, and we're Christians, prayer and fasting. But we have to be judicious because there's a right season for things. There's a right season for things. So go through those opportunities again. Is it aligned with where I want to go? What does excellence require? And is it my season to say yes? Those are things that I had to weigh when I was considering my four. And they definitely had benefits. And there were things that I made the mistake, and I could have done better by not maximizing some things and by, um, not sleeping as much and some other life things, but it was still the season to say yes for me. That part I knew. So I'm gonna pray for us and bless our business, but if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the chat, and I'll answer them after. And also make sure that you're joining the school community because that's where we continue the conversation. That's where a lot of the action happens. Well, Father God, I thank you for this time for me to be here with your daughters, my sisters. I bless them, those that you've called to launch and scale their creative business at this time. Lord, I ask for fresh inspiration for your daughters. I ask for wisdom, for discernment, for them to know what to do and when to do it. Lord, like the Issachar tribe, that they would know exactly how they should move in this season, what visibility assignments are right, what are right but not right now, God. Lord, I ask that you would help them grow closer to you, Holy Spirit, that you would draw them even closer, that even as you say in Zephaniah, that they would hear you singing over them. You say you sing over us, God. May they be so intimate with you, so intimate with your presence that they hear your singing over them. I bless the works of their hands. I bless the works of their voices, God. Lord, give them clarity throughout the rest of this week. Give them inspiration, Lord. Give them connections where their destiny helpers have been delayed. Lord, send speed. Even as we're continuing to pray into speed this month, Lord, let there be speed for them. What you have done for me, let there be speed for them and help them to know what to take and what not to take. God, I bless everything concerning them. And I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Last thing I want to just share really quickly before I take any of your questions is that we are going to be having our first monthly meetup next week, Tuesday, at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm so excited. This is an amazing time for us to get together as Christian women creatives. It's just going to be for an hour. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend some time in worship. I'm going to be praying over you guys, blessing you guys. And we're going to have some time for community. And there's going to be some prizes as well. And so make sure that you are in that school community, in our position women community, because that is the place where all the action happens. That's where you're going to grow. That's where you're going to meet others. You might meet your maid of honor. You never know in the community. But that is the place where we're growing together and we're doing the things that God has called us to. So I bless all of you. All right. If there's no questions, then I will continue the conversation in the school community. But if not, I will see you guys next week. All right. Take care, ladies. Love you all.